When they separated, his mother took him to Monroe County. But Gertrude didn't want a child. She was an eccentric street preacher, selling self-penned spirituals, chasing her own demons. And Chester, this massive, mischievous boy who once squeezed his grandmother's chick so hard they nearly died, was an inconvenience. His grandfather told him stories. Wolves in the Mississippi woods. Wolves that would get him if he misbehaved. When Chester acted out, the family howled at him. They called him Wolf. The name stuck like mud to boots. Then his mother threw him out. Picture this: a young boy, barefoot, walking miles through frozen Mississippi ground. No shoes, no coat, just a howl of winter and the weight of rejection. He walked to his great uncle Will Young's house. But Will Young wasn't salvation. He was another nightmare. Systematic abuse, physical, psychological. Uncle Will beat the children under his care. But Wolf, he received special treatment. The worst of it, for 5 years, he endured until he was 13. Then he killed a hog, an accident. But Uncle Will didn't care about accidents. Wolf knew what was coming. Another brutal beating, maybe worse. So he ran. He hoboed his way trains, foot, desperation across the Mississippi Delta until he found his father. Doc Burnett took him in, put him to work. The Delta became home. The plantation became prison. The blues became escape. And then, on January 15th, 1928, everything changed. Wolf's father bought him a guitar. Wolf never forgot that date, not for the rest of his life. He was 18 years old, 6'3", already massive, already learning that his voice, this guttural, howling, primal thing, could move people, could shake rooms, could tell stories his words alone couldn't. Around 1930, Wolf met Charley Patton, the founder of Delta Blues, the man who could make a guitar talk and dance and weep. Patton lived on a nearby plantation. Wolf approached him, asked for lessons. Patton agreed. The first song Wolf learned was Pony Blues. But Patton taught him more than notes. He taught him showmanship, how to flip the guitar backwards, over his shoulders, between his legs, how to throw it in the air and catch it, how to become the performance, how to own the room before you ever sang a word. Wolf absorbed it all. By night, he played juke joints, those sweaty, dangerous spaces where the blues lived. By day, he worked the fields, sun up to sundown, cotton, corn, survival. In 1933, Sonny Boy Williamson, the second rice miller, married Wolf's half-sister Mary, and just like Patton taught him guitar, Sonny Boy taught him harmonica. Wolf learned to play both simultaneously, guitar in his hands, harmonica in a neck rack near his mouth, rhythm and melody, pain and release. Throughout the 1930s, Wolf shared stages with legends: Robert Johnson, Willie Brown, Tommy Johnson, Son House. These men were the architects of American music, and Wolf learned from every single one: their techniques, their phrasings, their ability to take field hollers and spirituals and transmute them into something raw and eternal. He was farming by day, howling by night, building a reputation one juke joint at a time, building a sound that would outlive everyone in the room. Then came the war. 1941, Wolf was drafted into the U.S. Army at age 30. He was sent to Fort Lewis in Washington, then Camp Adair in Oregon. He served, he tried, but something inside him couldn't adjust, couldn't submit to the rigid structure, couldn't take the treatment. In November 1943, he suffered a nervous breakdown. The Army honorably discharged him. Years later, Wolf said it plainly. The Army ain't no place for a black man. Juices couldn't take all that bossing around, I guess. The Wolf's his own boss. He returned to Arkansas. His family had moved near West Memphis. He went back to farming, back to playing. But something was shifting. In 1948, Wolf formed his first real band, Willie Johnson on guitar, Matt Guitar Murphy, who taught Wolf to play in time, to hold the 12-bar structure, Junior Parker on harmonica, a pianist remembered only as Destruction, Willie Steele on drums. They were electric, raw, powerful. And radio station KWEM in West Memphis gave Wolf a slot, 15 minutes. He'd alternate between playing Delta blues and reading farm reports, between howling songs and endorsing agricultural equipment. It was surreal. It was genius. It was pure Wolf. Stories like these are why I built Legends Underrated. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more untold legends. Then in 1951, a 19-year-old talent scout named Ike Turner heard Wolf performing in West Memphis. Turner was working for Sam Phillips, the man who would later discover Elvis Presley. Turner told Phillips about Wolf. Phillips had just opened the Memphis recording service. He was hungry for something real, something undiluted. When Phillips heard Wolf, he knew immediately. He said it like gospel. This is where the soul of man never dies. Wolf was 41 years old. Most artists were launching careers in their 20s, but Wolf had lived, had suffered, had absorbed decades of Delta blues into his bones. In May or July of 1951, he walked into Phillips' studio, Ike Turner on piano, Willie Johnson on guitar, Willie Steele on drums. They recorded 2 songs, Moanin' at Midnight and How Many More Years. Sam Phillips had not yet founded Sun Records, so he leased both recordings. Moanin' at Midnight and How Many More Years went to Chess Records in Chicago. Simultaneously, Ike Turner, working as a scout for the Bihari Brothers, recorded another version of Moanin' at Midnight for RPM Records in Los Angeles, calling it Morning at Midnight. Both versions became hits. Suddenly, Wolf had 2 record labels fighting over him, Chess and RPM. Both wanted exclusive rights. Chess won. They offered Wolf a car and $3,900. Wolf took it, packed up, and in 1953, moved to Chicago. Chicago was the promised land of electric blues. Muddy Waters ruled Chess Records, and now Wolf was there, competing, battling for songs, battling for studio time, battling for Willie Dixon, the songwriter who was crafting the blueprint of modern blues. Dixon wrote for Muddy. He wrote for Wolf. The competition was intense, sometimes acrimonious. Wolf was always suspicious that Dixon gave his best songs to Muddy. So Dixon learned a trick. He'd tell Wolf that a song was written for Muddy. Suddenly, Wolf wanted it. Reverse psychology. It worked. In 1954, guitarist Hubert Sumlin joined Wolf's band. Sumlin's angular riffing and wild solos perfectly complemented Wolf's massive voice. From that point until Wolf's death, Sumlin was his right-hand man, his musical soulmate, the guitarist most associated with the Chicago Howlin Wolf sound. Together, they created magic. The hits came. Smokestack Lightnin in 1956, a song Wolf had been performing since the 30s. A field holler transformed into electric blues. I Asked for Water, She Gave Me Gasoline, same year. Then came the Willie Dixon masterpieces, Spoonful in 1960. The Red Rooster in 1961, Backdoor Man, Wang Dang Doodle, I Ain't Superstitious, songs that would define rock and roll, songs that white teenagers across the ocean would soon discover, songs that would change everything. But America didn't know Wolf. Not really. He played Chicago clubs, recorded for Chess, had 6 songs reach the Billboard R&B charts in the 50s. But mainstream America, television, white audiences, that door was locked until the British kicked it open. In 1964, Wolf toured Europe with the American Folk Blues Festival. He was treated like royalty. Young white kids in London were obsessed with Chess records. The Rolling Stones had a #1 hit in Britain with Wolf's Little Red Rooster. They worshipped him, studied his records, built their entire sound on his foundation. When Shindig, an ABC variety show, invited the Stones to perform, they had one condition, one non-negotiable demand. Howlin Wolf had to be there. The producers were desperate. They agreed. On May 20th, 1965, Wolf performed on national television for the first time in his storied career. He was 54 years old. He stood on that stage 6'3", massive, powerful, and performed how many more years, while the Rolling Stones sat at his feet watching in full metal idolatry. Host Jack Good kept calling him Mr. Howlin in his proper English accent. Brian Jones told the cameras, "Howlin Wolf is one of our greatest idols." Mick Jagger looked starstruck. The white go-go dancers swayed awkwardly behind Wolf's raw, primal performance. And America finally saw what Britain already knew. This twist shocked the world, and if you never want to miss stories like this, make sure you're subscribed to Legends Underrated, and don't forget to like the video if this story moved you. Music journalist Peter Guralnick called it one of the greatest cultural moments of the 20th century. Blues guitarist Buddy Guy said, "It was the light at the end of the tunnel." There was a boundary line which no one thought could be crossed, and the Rolling Stones broke it by getting Wolf on that show. Wolf himself was amazed. He told Buddy Guy later, "The man next door don't know who I am, and here's some British kids from thousands of miles away." He was proud. For once, visible. But Wolf's body was breaking. On March 14th, 1964, he married Lily Hanley Jones from Alabama. She was a property owner, a smart money manager. She brought stability. In 1969, Wolf suffered his first heart attack. His kidneys were failing. His blood pressure was dangerously high. Doctors told him to slow down. He refused. In May 1970, he traveled to London to record with Eric Clapton, Steve Winwood, Charlie Watts, Bill Wyman, and Ringo Starr. The sessions were difficult. Clapton struggled to capture Wolf's feel. Wolf was patient. He was professional. The London Howlin Wolf Sessions was released in 1971. It became the only Wolf album to chart on the Billboard 200, peaking at number 79. In May 1971, Wolf had a second heart attack. Doctors discovered his kidneys were failing. They ordered him to stop performing. He went on stage 3 months later. In August 1972, Columbia College in Chicago gave him an honorary doctorate. In August 1973, he recorded his final studio album, The Backdoor Wolf. In 1975, he was nominated for 2 Grammys, but the end was near. November 1975, Wolf's final performance, Chicago Amphitheater, alongside B. King. He could barely stand, but he howled anyway. On January 7th, 1976, doctors diagnosed him with a brain tumor. They performed surgery. He never recovered. On January 10th, 1976. Wolf was taken off life support. He died in Hines, Illinois. He was 65 years old. Even in the hospital, during kidney treatments, Wolf remained Wolf. Fans smuggled forbidden foods to him. Once he escaped, no one could find him. Hours later, he returned to the hospital licking his lips. He'd snuck out for a full meal of meat and potatoes. Even dying, he lived on his own terms. In 1980, Wolf was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame. In 1991, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 1994, the U.S. Post Office issued a Howlin Wolf commemorative stamp. In 1996, the first annual Howlin Wolf Blues Festival was held in West Point, Mississippi, his hometown, the place that had rejected him, the place that now honors him every year. The Rolling Stones built their career on his songs. Led Zeppelin turned How Many More Years into How Many More Times. The Doors covered Backdoor Man. Cream immortalized Spoonful. Eric Clapton, Steve Winwood, Ringo Starr, they all sat in his presence and tried to capture even a fraction of his power. Sam Phillips, the man who discovered Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, said Howlin Wolf was the greatest talent he ever worked with. Chester Arthur Burnett, born into poverty, abused by family, rejected by his mother, sent to war, discharged, broken, farmed under Mississippi's brutal sun. Learned from Charley Patton, taught Eric Clapton, transformed Delta blues into electric Chicago sound, created the blueprint for rock and roll, stood 6'3", weighed 300 pounds, howled like a man possessed, and changed music forever. Sam Phillips said it best: "This is where the soul of man never dies." Wolf's own words from Smokestack Lightnin serve as his epitaph: "Fare you well, never see me here no more." The man who was invisible to his neighbor became immortal to the world. That's the Howlin Wolf story, and that's a legend that will never die.